Matt, how are you?
Good, Sarah. How are you?
Good. So Matt and I had an idea to do a podcast just about, low-key real estate things.
Right.
My 2 cents, because clearly I can talk to a wall, is that real estate right now is very glamorous. We have all these reality shows about real estate, and to me, I find real estate to be a very big, relationship job, and we're just regular people, and I don't want it to be intimidating. And I'm also finding a lot of the media that's out there right now is geared towards other people in the industry, and it's not capturing the people we want to talk to, which is people that want to buy and sell houses.
Right.
So we're going to talk about stuff that has nothing to do with that. We're going to talk about crime.
Right. Yeah. We're gonna dive into some real estate crime, maybe some other crime throughout all of this.
Yeah.
We're gonna, we'll still kind of give slight, updates on market stuff. Nothing really too in depth. Just kind of stories that we've experienced, and then just kind of go at it.
We'll start with real estate and we'll end with horror stories.
Yeah. It's going to be great.
And I do think that, a lot of people don't understand how dangerous of a job real estate is. I think that you think of it as very much an office job, stick a sign in the ground, everyone's, whatever. It's a super dangerous job, especially if you're a female in the field. Mm-hmm. And it's something that, we all have to be hyper aware of, but not a lot of people talk about.
Right.
Like realtor safety is something you talk about within your brokerage maybe once a year when they go over it because they're required to talk to you about it.
Right.
But it's not something that is on the forefront, I think, of everyone's mind.
Yep.
And crime podcasts just happen to be the thing right now. So here,
so let's just mesh it.
And we don't have a name to this show, so if anyone has suggestions, feel free.
Yeah, feel free.
It's TBD, to be determined. But we'll start with the real estate.
Yeah.
So we got a client. We're going to call him Joe.
Joe.
Name ain't Joe, but we're going to call him Joe. And literally 20 minutes before this started, we had an appraisal come in super low.
Yep.
And if anyone here is following real estate, which we hope you are, whether you're buying, selling, in the field, appraisals are like the it language right now. Everyone's talking about them. Everyone wants you to waive them, which when I got into real estate 8 years ago, that was like, the market had just crashed. We were just recovering from the crash that appraisals were the cause of this.
Right.
So they do make me a little nervous to see all of this happening, but I'll let you carry out because it's really kind of on the lender side that gets it first. Then you deliver the bomb to me, and then I just kind of try to deactivate it together.
Yeah. No, so like you said, literally 20 minutes before we started this, we got an email where one came in a little bit light, 30 grand light. 30 grand light.
No big deal.
So, these are kind of situations that I think a lot of people don't recognize can happen when you do waive your appraisal.
And why it's important you have the right lender and the right realtor because we have a solution.
Right.
We come with solutions.
Right. We're gonna come up with solutions. But it's important to note that it's not all sunshine and rainbows with these transactions. It's not you waive the appraisal, the appraiser says, oh, it's close enough, we go up, and all of a sudden you're good.
And it's like an unfortunate circumstance that it's almost in every single scenario now that I'm submitting an offer that the first question is, well, where's the appraisal language?
Right.
And honestly, up until this summer, I was able to be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Like, kick rocks. No, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it. When the appraisal comes, if it's low, we'll renegotiate like any other market.
Right.
But now,
you can't.
It's honestly, and I can't stress this enough, it's like it takes one person to screw it up, for lack of a better term.
Mm-hmm.
Like I showed a property to this same buyer, and I knew that it was overpriced. It didn't have any offers, and I thought that we could get it at asking. And I've gotten 3 contracts at asking in the last 12 months, so I know I can do it.
Right.
And one other offer came in, and it was $50,000 over asking, and there was no other offers in hand.
Right.
So that one person just completely annihilated it for everybody. And now that comp is...
And that's what I was going to talk about too. Is this is the big deal with it? Is when people waive the appraisal and it comes in light, they still pay that number. Now that comp is not based off the appraised value. That comp is now based off the sale price.
Yep.
So now everyone's house in the neighborhood hypothetically just went up in value when it really didn't.
Which is great for a homeowner. It's really terrible for a buyer right now. Though. It really is the worst. And in this specific instance, like we have the comps come in and. In order for us to get this offer accepted, we were negotiating for 2 days. And in this particular instance, there was no way around it. It was, if you want this property,
you have to
you're going to agree to, they're calling it gap coverage now, which is gap coverage, by the way, is like when you get for a car, when you're like closed and you move in anyway.
Yeah,
and
it's like
a
insurance.
It's not supposed to be for appraisals. So gap coverage we agreed to pay because, I am confident in understanding the values in this area and I know that this property is worth a certain value.
Right.
And it came in way lower. And I think that, me, you, and the lender all are kind of like puzzled of like, where's this number coming from?
Right. Right.
And so, what was, I'm interested to hear a little bit more about the solution you're thinking of.
Yeah. So instead of, everyone has this option, and instead of paying, the difference per se, you're still hypothetically paying that difference, except you can just now spend the same amount of money, but your down payment becomes lower. So luckily, this client was putting enough down to where there was
very strong buyer.
Very strong buyer. Was putting enough down to where he wasn't running into any minimum down payment requirements. That's the only time this would become a problem.
Yes.
Where he has that buffer, now we put the same amount of cash down, right? But now only 30 grand less of it's going towards your down payment.
Okay.
So the loan amount stays the same as we all originally talked about.
Yeah.
But now he would just have to deal with mortgage insurance for an X period of time.
Yep.
Right? But it's still going to be cheaper in the long run. He's going to spend significantly less money than paying $30,000 extra out of his pocket. So you don't save the 30 grand, hypothetically.
Yes.
But you do in the short term.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
And I think that this is such an odd situation to be in because ordinarily, literally, this is the first deal I've done where I've agreed to an appraisal gap. I've never done one on the buyer side. I refused to do it. And this time there was just no way out of it. And this person's been looking for such a long time. The interest rates are rising. And that's putting pressure on buyers to be like, all right, I want to be done with this. Let's go. So in a normal circumstance, I would be like, oh, yeah. Came in 30 G's low. What you gonna do about it? Now I'm like, what do you mean?
What are we gonna do about it?
What are we gonna do about it? I feel like I'm a list agent. And so, but in this, I truly, in this specific situation, feel so strongly that this one of those fucking comps is not appropriate.
It's not right. Yeah.
Like, how are you gonna this?
Right. But this, again, is where the team approach comes into play.
Exactly.
It's important to have people on your side that don't just kind of accept the appraisal for what it is. Sometimes you have to. The comps are there.
And ordinarily, I would be about it. I'd be like, okay, sellers is for you to figure out. And my tactic is always, okay, and again, this market's on crack. So right now, like this seller could technically tell me, like, all right, see you later, bye. But in a normal market, I say, okay, that's fine. We're not going to pay that. Or we'll agree to pay, say $10,000 more.
Right.
If you would like, you can walk and you can go put your house back on the market. And when people ask you why it fell apart, you can say you want more than what your house is worth.
Right.
And that has worked for me every single time.
Right.
So now I'm like, well, we have these buyers out here just whipping cash out their pockets.
Right.
Just ruin it for the rest of us.
Right, it is, because it's like, oh, someone might pay it.
It's
like
honestly aggravating. And I'm like, if we could just hold out as buyers, like, just hold out, dog.
Yeah.
Just hold out.
Yeah.
Stop being so open to just, like, open your checkbook. Like, yeah, I can. Weird flex, dude. I can waive the appraisal. That's a weird flex, dog. Like, you want to know what the house is worth. What do you mean? And waive your appraisal.
Right.
Like, for me, I feel like so strongly about it. Like, it's like basically buying a car and asking someone to be upside down on it.
Yeah. Hey,
you want this guy to be upside down on his house, like, immediately?
Right.
In an already highly inflated market? Like, this is nuts.
Right.
So it's really
that's actually exactly
how
how I describe it to people.
Yeah.
When people
exactly
don't understand kind of how it's working, I go, it's like if you were to ask somebody for $15,000 for a car that's worth $12.
Yeah, exactly.
What would you say if you were that person? You'd say, no, I'm only going to loan you $12. So then you got to come up with a 3 somehow. But then it kind of gets people thinking, like, well, why would I buy a $15,000 car if it's worth $12? It's like, well, see,
exactly.
It's all clicking.
And
It's all
because we
starting to
have
click.
all of these, I mean, I still am going to play, hardball if I have to. Like, if our client Joe decides not to take this option and I have to go to bat, I mean, I'm gonna go in swinging, dog.
Right.
I'm gonna go in and just say, listen, put your house back on the market then.
Right.
Put your house back on the market. The only downer is that this is the position we're put in. This is the position buyers are put in, is that they're forced to agree up front. And I hate that this is the case. Yep. And again, in my, I'm on my 8th, 9th year in real estate, this is the first deal I've ever negotiated gap insurance. Gap insurance. I'm calling it insurance. Gap coverage on an appraisal. And it's like, I'm just so aggravated because, of course, at the beginning of this, Matt and I were like, I haven't seen any appraisals coming in low at all.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Because all these people are coming out their pockets with cash.
Right.
And I'm like, of course this would be the one.
The one.
Of course this would be the one because that's what we said in the beginning.
Right.
So, fuck me, I guess.
Right.
But we can get to what we want to talk about. So
yeah, let's do it.
We want to be doing these fun. It's not fun. See, I'm messing up the verbiage here. Crime podcasts because they are interesting to people.
Yep.
I always have had a really weird interest in like watching things like Snapped and Forensic Files and
Yep.
stuff like that. And obviously we have like Bailey Sarian. She's like a big person out there. She does all the makeup tutorials and like I think she calls them Murder Mondays. But this particular instance here, the first person we're going to talk about, I think is probably one of the most well-known, unfortunate
Cases.
murders in real estate,
Right.
because her family is such a huge advocate for realtor safety now. So this is Beverly Carter.
Yes.
And Matt, I will let you
Yes.
get going here.
Yes. So for those that don't really know kind of what the Beverly Carter case is, like Sarah said, it's probably one of the most famous real estate agent murderings, I guess you could call it, that happened.
sad. Yeah.
It is very sad. So she was, I believe it was September 25th?
26th.
26th? Yep, September 26th, 2014. She was going to what she thought was a private showing with two potential buyers. That obviously panned out to not be the case. Unfortunately for her, she got kidnapped and then ended up being suffocated to death by being duct taped in the head and like just
Horrible.
essentially wrapped around, not being able to breathe.
And the reasoning behind why this person did it was because they said that she was a rich broker.
Yep.
That was it.
Yep.
Just because she was a rich broker. Like
Right.
they think we're just walking around here with wads of cash. Like, so
Yeah, and that she was alone. That was the other
Yes.
big thing too, was that she was alone, and they knew that there was nothing that she was going to be able to
yeah.
do.
And I think that, it was really sad. And it was really, like, the more I read about it, I pulled up this article that was, I think it's from just Arkansas Online.
Yeah, I think that was the first one I read actually when I
Yeah,
sent these.
it's very detailed. It's like day by day. She was missing for a few days while her family and everyone in the real estate community in her area came out to look for her, which I thought was like really sweet
Right.
because, real estate can be very competitive.
Yep.
Shall I
Sometimes
say
brokerages
catty,
don't like each other.
But it was nice to see everyone kind of come together to help this family. And what had happened to her is even like she actually did kind of take realtor safety into consideration because she told her husband where she was going.
Right.
She sent her husband a text, said, "Hey, I'm going here for a showing."
Right.
And when he didn't hear from her by 9 p.m., he's like, "What the hell's going on?"
Right.
And initially when I read that, like 9 p.m., like you waited till 9 p.m., but then I'm thinking in the summertime, I stand outside talking to my clients if I have a showing at 7:30. That sometimes I'm out there till 8:30.
Right.
Because they're
So it
interested
may
and we have
not be
questions or-
unusual.
Exactly. And so, it's just kind of a scary situation to be in.
Yeah. And I know, well, I shouldn't say I know. I read.
I read.
that the whole kidnapping plan actually went array for them.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So they originally were, I think they both worked in like a concrete plant.
Was this a husband and wife or was it?
I think it was a husband and
Yes,
wife. Yeah.
yes.
So originally they were going to go in there, put her in like a room and in duct tape her, not duct tape her head, but duct tape her
God.
like still. And they were actually going to have her record stuff for ransom.
Oh my
So
God.
because they thought that she was rich and that everyone she knew was rich, so they were going to make a lot of money on it. But actually, so they didn't work for that concrete plant anymore. They just remembered what the layout was, and apparently everything changed. Like the layout of it, so they didn't recognize any of the plant.
Oh my God.
So then they freaked out because they just had a body in the back of their car, not dead, alive. They know the girl now. Beverly knows what they look like.
Yeah.
They know she knows everything. So they actually brought her back to her house apparently, and then tied
brought
her
her
up
back
in
to her house?
no to the
Oh, the
to their
showing
house.
house?
Yeah.
Oh my God, yeah.
Tied her up in the bathroom, and then kind of was figuring out what to do. And I think it was the wife was freaking out the most because there was medication bottles in the bathroom with all their names on it. So now she knew what they looked like and she
and
knew their
their
names.
names.
So I think that was the turning point where they were like, well, we really only have one option, unfortunately. And yeah, they literally wrapped her head in duct tape and then she suffocated to death. Like, that's a
horrible.
horrible.
Yeah, and
obviously way to go.
I know they went back and buried her at that the concrete plant that
Yes.
they worked at.
Yeah, to try to hide it.
And I was reading through like the expectation was, see right here is a quote, "My expectation is to find Beverly and to find her okay, but time is of the essence." And at that point, she's probably already long gone.
Right.
And
Right.
that's what's so terrible. Her family has done like an amazing job of advocating about realtor safety. There's the Beverly Carter Foundation, and her son, like at any brokerage, if anyone is listening, if there's a broker listening, you can have a speaker come from her foundation, and they have these kits for like realtor safety
Oh, that's cool.
that come through because I myself have been in really weird situations
Right.
in real estate, and
that's what I was
going to
ask you
hyper-aware.
if you would kind of speak on that,
yeah,
because
so
this is not this extreme is obviously not
happens.
the normal.
Unfortunately, we're going to be talking, as we continue to do this. I hope it raises awareness of a lot of different things that I think I don't really need to say out loud, but this is mainly women being murdered or sexually assaulted or both.
Right.
Because they're vulnerable and they're just a lot of the time just trying to make money. And a lot, for instance, I think it was last year or the year before, there was a realtor in the Northeast area, I believe, who was my age and had a child my age at the time. I think her son was 2 years old, and she got murdered at a showing.
Oh my God.
And so some of the precautions that I think, just for people that don't know, if you get a message from someone that says, I'm a cash buyer, I want to look at a house right now, no.
Don't go.
No. And I know it's like, oh my God, it's happening.
It's the perfect buyer.
Because there's not a lot of guidance when it comes to when you first get into real estate. It's not like you work for a company and there's training, like you go to your desk every day. It's not that. You are your own business. You get your own leads, and it costs money to be in business. So when you have an opportunity to make some money, sometimes, again, when you're first in this, you can make people see the big checks. Okay, I made $10,000, but you might make $10,000 and then not sell anything for 3 or 4 months.
Right.
So, if you are in a financially, poor situation and you want to go ahead and, take those risks, you always want to make sure that you're getting proof of funds, you're speaking with their lender, you're getting a copy of their ID. And at minimum, I ask them to talk to one of my lenders. Right. Because if you kill me, they're going to know you.
They're going to know. Yeah, they're gonna know I got all your info.
They're going to know you. And even so, it's never worth it. It's never worth it. And I also always bring my brother or my husband, and I tell them that he's my assistant.
Yeah, perfect.
And that's just always been my thing.
Right.
Even at open houses, because young women in particular, I hate doing open houses now just because I've been doing real estate for so long.
For so long, where it's I'll just have somebody do it.
But in the beginning, I was constantly covering them. And after this, I'll tell you some creepy stories. But, young women are always alone in these houses. And sometimes when you're newer, you're covering open houses on listings that are sitting. They're not like these open. And again, we're in a market that's completely abnormal, where you're having lines of people outside of houses
for every single
in a
listing.
Balanced market, or in sometimes just overpriced listings. They sit, and when they sit, no one shows up. So you're alone in this house. And if you're doing open houses Saturday, Sunday, you could have someone scout you all day on Saturday, watch what's going on, and then Sunday you come back and they're there alone, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Right. I mean, I know I've been in open houses kind of by myself.
You come with me.
Yeah, that's right.
You come to me. And I think I remember specifically he said, "Oh, I think you were on your way." I was like, "Can you please wait right there?" Because I always check the basement, because I've had clients of mine. I've noticed sometimes people will go downstairs and unlock the door because they want to rob the place after. Yeah. So I always make sure that the basement interior door is locked, and I just check to make sure no one's in the house. Right. And I'm like, "Hey, Matt, don't leave."
Right.
Don't leave just yet.
and not to get too far off topic here, but literally, I remember that house. I went in, I turned just basic shit, turn on lights and everything. And then I remember I was upstairs. I was like, man, something doesn't feel right about this house. And then you told me that somebody died, and I was like, oh my God. I remember literally being in the master bedroom, and I was like, I feel like someone is staring at me. And it was creepy. And obviously no one was there, but I was like, this feels crazy.
Yeah, nuts. When I was 5 months pregnant, I was covering an open house for my dad, and somebody came in with a camcorder. And, I had my son in 2019, so this is probably late 2018. You don't walk around with a camcorder. You got a phone, dog. What are you doing? He comes in with a camcorder, and it's okay, what do I do? Very creepy. Only filming things around me, near me. So I'm standing next to the slider.
Yeah, it's
ready to huff and puff my fat pregnant ass out this door.
You make one move.
And so that was one particular instance. When I was on my parents' real estate team, we used to do exclusively new construction. And my stepmom spent a lot of time there alone. And in this one particular instance, and this is where I don't think men think about this the same way that women do, is I was there with my dad, and this person came in, and he had full military gear on, and he said, "Is Roberta here?" That's my stepmom's name, and my dad said, "No, she's not." And I just got a vibe from him that I think you just pick up on from creeps when you're a chick. Right. And so, I looked up his name, and it was another person that it looked like he was imitating. Another person in the military, same exact name, and it wasn't him. Right. And he was like, "I have cash. can you please, asking me to walk the new construction units that were just like basically just framed. And I was like, absolutely not.
Yeah,
absolutely not.
Yeah.
And then many times throughout the time that he spent at this showing, he said, I thought Roberta was going to be here alone today.
Yeah,
I thought Roberta was going to be here alone today.
creepy.
And I'm like looking at my dad, and he's like not really picking up on it. And after he left, I was like, Dad,
do you not realize what
that guy was here because he thought she was going to be alone. It's terrifying.
Right.
And, you know, when I first got into real estate, that was one of the first things I was taught is never walk into a bedroom first.
Right.
Always let
stand
them lead the
behind.
way because they can easily shove you in and there's nothing you can do about it. So, again, Beverly Carter, it's brief. It's a very long story. She was missing for a few days.
Yep.
Unfortunately, she was discovered, and now her family has done a really good job advocating. But, you know, real estate is unfortunately a deadly job in some situations.
in some situations.
So
yeah.
we're going to be talking about some crime.
Yeah. No, we're gonna keep talking about kind of different cases. You know,
Yeah.
every month, every 3 weeks, whatever it may be. We'll always kind of start like we did today with like a little
real estate blurb.
just a real estate blurb, like nothing too crazy, just stories that you know we've experienced, and you know not getting like educational, but just like hey, like here's some things to watch out for.
Happening.
Yeah, just quick little blurb, and then we'll talk about fun crime stuff. And
I think we're trying to find our fit here too. So if there's anything interesting that you know you think you'd want to hear from in related to the real estate realm or otherwise, you know, we'd like to hear from you.
If you know any cases of anything.
Yeah, in particular.
Like,
Beverly Carter is definitely like the poster child for, you know, realtor safety. And if you check out her website, the Beverly Carter Foundation, I can't say enough good things about what her family's done. It's funny that you brought her up first because you emailed me and I was like, of course it's Beverly Carter. Because I follow all of her stuff or her son's stuff on social media. And it's really inspiring to see them turn something so horrible into a way to really kind of raise awareness about this is like a real problem in real estate. I mean, across the board it's a problem, but
especially in real estate. And I mean, I know I went to, I think it was like a Manchester Nashua Board of Realtors event, and it was on realtor safety. I was like, what do they have to be safe about? Literally, and this was 3 months ago. I was like, what are they talking about? And then like you kind of sit there and you think about it.
Yeah.
And then obviously they have like a former police officer talking about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, you do show people houses alone, possibly at night. It's like that's.
And if you think about it, if you're buying leads from Zillow,
like, you've never met them, and then you're just meeting them at a house.
Exactly, and it's terrifying. You know what I mean? A lot of your real estate business is referral based, but once you get into the next level of it, you do pay for leads.
You got to scale
just part
somehow.
of real estate is like I pay for a certain service. A big popular one to start is the Zillow leads, and you know, it's terrifying.
Yeah,
it's terrifying, and it makes me think. Like I just wonder, like. Was she the listing agent? Was she this person's buyer's agent? You know, like how did this happen? Because just the way representation works, it's just these are things that I'm curious about.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
This was awesome, episode 1.
I know.
Stay tuned.
I know. It's a little shaky, but we'll get there.
We'll get there.
Yeah, but thank you very much.
Yes, thank you for listening. Tune in for the next one.
Yes.